So the next question is, was there a typical kind of woman you'd see working there? There's no one type. I thought there'd be. I remember being really insecure thinking that they were all going to be just beautiful, stunning women and that like how am I going to ever live up? As you can see, I have a lot of insecurities and worthiness issues from my childhood, but that was so not the case. There were so many shapes, sizes, upbringings, but I'm going to try to break them into a couple of avatars just for some examples of what I did see there. A lot of the girls are spiritual or pagan in belief. You're not going to see somebody who is a Christian and walking in that obedience to Christ working in the club. Maybe she thinks she's a Christian, but she's not really pulling closer to God or obeying what God is telling her to do. Otherwise, she would not be in sex work. Some women are really deceived and believe that this is what God wants them to do. And it's just heartbreaking because that's not true. God wants so much more for you than for you to be, like I said in the last episode, exploited by demons. Demons get pleasure from our sin and they seek to exploit us in this way, but God sees us as his beloved, as his child, his daughter, his bride. And so he would never do that to us or want us in those kind of dangerous, like those environments are dangerous for our soul and God wouldn't want that. So most of these girls are the spiritual kind of girlies. Like I mentioned, they do the crystals, the tarot cards, astrology, and they may even see themselves as a goddess or God in human form. This was so me. The second time around, after I'd fallen into all of these concepts, I was big into psychedelics and my astrology and all of that. I was literally in the club teaching these teachings from fallen angels to these men, thinking that I was helping them heal, helping them evolve. I was big on teaching them their whole astrological chart because I thought this is just an advanced form of psychology. I'm going to help them self introspect and heal and evolve and know themselves better. And I remember the crystals. I was never super big on crystals, but I did think, they were an added component to it. And tarot cards, I would bring tarot cards and do them with these guys, thinking that I was connecting them with their spirit guides or a message that the universe had for them. I remember thinking that if I breathed with them, that I was helping heal them, and that like I mentioned, that this was something I did in a past life. I thought I was one of those sacred prostitute or temple prostitutes that did this. But it's such a deception for you to see this as something sacred. It's like that's what Satan wants you to think to keep you stuck doing this kind of work. But like I mentioned too, like I thought I was coming in with these intentions and I just began to realize that all of it was in vain because these guys weren't coming for that. Like that wasn't their intention. They were coming for pleasure or mental break or to exploit woman and get pleasure off of woman. And so it's almost like what I said was going in one ear and out the other. And I was never actually helping anybody. A, because these weren't true teachings or teachings from God, but B, because they weren't there for that. So I began to see my efforts were in vain, though that's what I thought I was doing. So I meant well. I just wasn't rooted in truth. The next kind of girls that you'll see, this one was kind of surprising to me, but some are dark, like emo dark, and they dance to dark rock and roll. And there's a clientele for that too, because like I mentioned, it's a lot of broken, hurting people, and they're operating out of some kind of pain or trauma. Many are middle aged and married with kids and just don't know how else to provide because they've been doing this since they were young and have nothing more to show on a resume to be able to do anything else in their lives. And this is really sad because the older you get, the less likely you are to want to stay in this line of work, but they don't know what else they could do. And like I said, there's nothing else on their resume for them to show for themselves to even begin to do anything else. So it does become a bit of a trap. Some girls are young, social media hot girls looking for the next cocaine plug or sugar daddy or party link. I worked with a girl who hung out at Dan Bilzerian's and she was always quick to brag about that, but she was never trying to extend an invite to anybody else. She did bottle service and everything else, just trying to work her way up in those elite environments. So there's definitely that kind, especially if you're in a more like ritzy areas, more city areas. You're not going to see that as much like in your rural strip clubs. But where I was at in Arizona was pretty close to people of influence you might expect to see around. The next kind of girls are addicts, just getting quick cash for their next dose. Some are young and pretty, but not very smart and don't have confidence in anything besides their appearance to make a living. Some are not pretty and looking for that physical validation that they are. Some are just doing this temporarily while working towards some other goal like school. but often get roped in for longer than they expected because they can't let go of that quick money, or perhaps they got addicted and distracted along the way. So you do see that. You do see some girls there and they're like, this isn't who I am. This is just, I'm making money quickly to work towards my law degree or something else. I did see that. It was a little more rare, like I said. I didn't see that often, but I was kind of that same way. I never identified with being a stripper, especially because I mentioned I only did it for a couple months both times. Both times it was like, this is a means to an end. Like, I'm looking to get somewhere or make money temporarily, but this isn't like I'm not in it for the long haul. I'm just lucky that God did pull me out because I could have gotten sucked in just as quickly as anybody else could have. And then some girls are a mix and match combo of all of the above or none of the above. But like I said with the men, what all of them have in common is operating in a spirit of lust and not living in faith and obedience to the one true God.